Recorded. What you say can be held against you at a later date.
Thank you all for joining us tonight for effective fundraising with Brad Killmeyer. And Brad is a brother, Dallas area, I believe. So we are. Thank you for joining us tonight. And throughout the evening, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put those in the chat, or feel free to just scream it out. I'm sure Brad would be happy to answer them. So I'll turn it over to you, Brad.
Thank you, Heather. And everyone, it's great to be with you tonight. I just want to say that I appreciate you taking this time to invest in yourself and your chapters. I do want to give you information tonight that you can use, that's practical, that immediately when you get off this call, you can have some things that you say, I'm going to go do that, and it can benefit you and your members. Heather, it was an honor. I think it was about 4 years ago. I did not know that it was possible, but I was an honorary initiatant of Delta Sigma Pi. And truly, it's been a wonderful experience. And I do love giving back and working with your chapters. So with that, everybody, I want to make this interactive. I want to answer your questions. And I do have a few things prepared for us, but by all means, I want to make sure that I answer what you want. Some things to take pictures of, some slides, but I want everybody to know that, this may be a little bit, but dreams do come true. And oftentimes as leaders, and those of you that are on this call, I imagine, could be doing a lot of things right now. And I don't just say this, but there's a few students that, we're talking about the national championship game, and, taking the time to be here makes me think that, you have a vision for your chapter, a vision for yourself that you want to become a reality. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how do you make these things happen? And the first one is that I want to know what you want to learn. So if you could, for me tonight, whether it be why you joined us, what would make tonight valuable, what do you want to know or learn about fundraising? And in the chat box, please take a minute and really think about what it is that you want to know. Why did you join us tonight? You could be doing anything. You chose to be here. What is it that you want to learn or what you want to know about? And Luke, I always throw these in too for programs, is that I always give a little bit of advice as a speaker. You can have something you want to talk about, and you can talk about it all you want, but the real benefit is to add value to the audience, and the way to do that is to find out, like, what do people want to know, what do they want to learn. So please take some time to, in the chat box there, see if we can get a few responses as to what is it that you really want to learn about fundraising. And I guess some questions too. I have no idea where people are in this journey. Some of you may have never raised money before. Some of you may have gotten some nice donations. So anything like that too that you could share as far as where you are in your journey, anything like that. And Heather, my next thing, I'm gonna have to start to give stuff away, like different freebies for like the first person that jumps in. Okay, this is good. So Anna, I think this is a thoughtful response. On campus, there's always something going on. Yes, someone is always asking for money, right, Anna? That can be a challenge. What can your chapter do to make your fundraising stand out? Excellent. I have some ideas for you on that. I'm taking pictures as well so I can get this. Gabe, you're a newer chapter. You're looking for ideas because of limited capital at the moment. All right, is it Guillermo? Do I have that right? As a faculty sponsor, I'm always looking for creative ways to help my chapter raise money. You have a very active alumni group. Well, Guillermo, that's fantastic that the alumni is very active, because that's something that we're going to talk about, and sometimes that takes a while to get started. So thank all three of you for sharing that. Let's jump into a couple of what I would say is the details, but they're necessary for fundraising. If you take a picture of this slide, this could be very valuable for you. I'm not going to go through every detail of it, but I do want to give you some background as to the credibility of what I'm about to share with you tonight. I have been fortunate to become business partners with a couple of individuals that have raised serious amounts of funds, and also people that have done tremendous work in the community as a result of those funds. One of them, you can Google a gentleman named Joe Batista. He was responsible for the largest donation in Penn State history, and it ended up being a $120 million donation. And I was fortunate enough to learn a lot of what I'm sharing tonight from Joe. But this is a kind of an outline of fundraising. The number one thing that Joe shared with me is why this and why now. So why should I give to this organization, or why should I do it right now? So when you're thinking about fundraising, the first question to ask yourself is why this and why now? Let's see who else we have here. Yeah, Dylan, we have asking for money seems like the hardest part. What's the best way about asking for sponsors? We'll get into that for sure. Yeah, Lena, the most profitable different things that you can do to generate interest. Absolutely. We will cover that. Okay, so as you're at this, why now? And after you start to think about that, you want to get into what is your strategic plan and what is your time frame for this, right? Is this something that you're going to do ongoing? Is it something you're going to do in 30 days? But you start to map this out. Let's talk a little bit about those different types of fundraisers, right? There are those things that you talked about going around on campus, and those are those maybe $20 here or there, the people that do the buy a raffle ticket or buy something like that. You have your annual giving where people give so much, each and every year, which I do want to stress is a really great way to get donations. Your special projects, your major gifts, things like this. Then you start to cultivate for the donations, right? How do you actually figure out who to ask? So everybody, if you could, in the chat box, could I ask you this? What is your most successful fundraiser right now? Like what do you do to raise money? What do you sell something? Do you ask for straight donations? Let's get a feel for what are people doing right now? And then as you're looking at this, if you have that alumni group, that would be a place to start getting interest and getting people onto campus. Right. I like this. Anna, you host a sticker sale this past semester that was a big success. I love that. So Anna has a sticker sale. And everyone, as you do this too, you can learn from each other. There's certainly always different ideas and new things that are happening. Gabe, you got the pizza fundraiser. I love that. Hoagies and pizza. Then as you go through cultivating the relationship, you do have to go through and ask. I will share this, and Dylan, I think you mentioned this as far as asking for money. If you take one thing away tonight, everybody, Joe shared this with me, that the number one reason people don't give is why. There's one reason people don't give. And that number one reason is because nobody asked. Okay. I was never asked. Hey, you know what? The number one reason people don't join Delta Sigma Pi is because nobody asks. It's the same thing. Okay. And maybe there's a fear of what will they say? What will they think of me? I'll share with you when I started fundraising and asking for money, I had that what will what will people think? You know, will I ruin relationships because of this? But the truth is, people love to do good things. So we're going to talk about how you can make that happen too. It is important as to, you know, thinking about who makes the ask and when. There are right and wrong places to do that. So you want to make sure it's an appropriate place to ask. And those loyalty versus passion gifts, you know, start to think about if, you know, the people giving for a certain reason. I love this. Who do we have here? Great. We've got sold food outside of, that's interesting. Elaine, sold food outside the bars on a busy night. You did a pie professor fundraiser with the professors. I like that one. From the business school and the profits for hurricane relief. Tremendous. So then I'm going to share this, not quickly, but take a picture of this slide. The thing that's important is once you get donations is to, how do you get people to continue to give? And the way is to follow up. Okay. A lot of people, as soon as they get the check, then they feel like that they're done, right? Where once you get the check or you get the donation, that's when it's really just started for you to show that person more value. Ways to definitely do this. Think about handwritten notes, postcards. This was from a good friend of mine, Joe Batista. He talked about how, you know, Steve Spurrier used to do autograph visits for South Carolina alumni, but think about how you can do something that's tasteful and that's meaningful and special to those people. Mega gifts, we're not going to get too much into, but there is people that, you know, they want to see things happen. And one of my encouragements is to make sure you ask for enough money. Some people try to do stuff and they just ask for what you need to get things done. So I have a few things here that I wanted to make sure I shared with you. The first one is to write down, in my opinion, there are reasons for different fundraisers. Everybody on here, I heard like the hoagies, the sticker sales, things like that. Those are good to do to build your community as a group. So that helps everybody can go out and do that, right? Like everybody can go sell 10 pizzas or sell 20 pizzas. And, you know, you may not even fully think of it this way, but you're actually building some business skills by doing that, right? Like you have to go out and sell whatever it is that you're doing. You've got to collect the money. You've got to learn about, okay, we've got expenses for this. So how much profit do we make? And I want to pull up the questions, but somebody asked, what's the most profitable thing to do? And the one I'm going to encourage you for is to simply ask for donations. Okay. I always smile and say, when people ask me for the hoagie, I buy 5 hoagies for $50, and they say, you know, they say they make half of their money on that. They could have just asked me for $50. And I would have given them the same amount of money, and they would have made 100% of what I give. I have an example. There's a school up where I live that they always have this hoagie sale every year, and it's the same thing. I always smile. I say I could just give them so much money, right? I had, I guess, to give you some ideas, there's reasons to do the fundraisers, but the reasons aren't necessarily to necessarily get certain amounts of donations. So think about asking for a specific amount of money. And what I would encourage you to start to think about, and I'm going to ask it in this way, is why does your chapter need the funds? So think about the upcoming lead provincials. You know, who needs money for lead provincials? Who needs money for operations? I'll give you something from a recruiting perspective that these all go hand in hand, but food is a very important thing as far as building relationships, which is our next point. Having meals together builds relationships. If you think about when people have good conversations with one another, it's usually over a meal of some sort. So at your chapters, I don't know how many people do this, but I would encourage you to have some kind of pizza or something at your chapter meetings, and you could have that sponsored by either a local business, or it could be a alumni. I'll give you an example. I was I don't know what the name of it is, but I was basically the faculty advisor for a Rotaract club at Slippery Rock University, and we made a partnership with Domino's, and every single session that we had was we had Domino's food. So basically, I don't want to say this correctly, but they had food that at times was, they didn't know week to week what it was, but they could give something each week so we could have a meal for everybody. And they actually, on top of this, so just, they actually made a $500 donation to our club as well, in addition to the food that they would give every week. And in exchange for that, we did some things on campus to promote Domino's. So I'm trying to get you to think a little differently in the way as to how can you build partnerships with some local businesses, and how can what you do actually not only do good for the business, but how can it benefit your chapter? So with those relationships, you have to think about why you need the money first. And I want to go back to that. If you have ideas in the chapter, I'm going to go on the chat. The question is why do you need the money? What would you do with the money? And then think about what was in the beginning. Why do you need it now? Right? Like, what is it that you need? Why do you need it now? And as you find that out, then you can start to say, who are the right people, whether it be companies or whether it be alumni, as to how are you going to ask for this? Like what is the impact? And I want to really focus on high impact things, everybody. So like, what would make a substantial difference to your chapter? Right? Like if our chapter could have this, it would really change what? And I'm not here to tell you what these things should be, but to give you the ideas as to, like, if you could send another 5 students to lead provincial every year, how would that grow your leadership skills for your chapter? What would that do to membership? What would that do to the camaraderie for your group? So think about what those things are. Just as we mentioned here with like Domino's, different things, think about how you can add value to corporations. So, it could be coupons. It could be the fact that, if you've seen now, but employment is hard for everybody. So could you be an advocate that there are job openings and that people on campus should look to these companies for jobs? Think about, I'm not sure the exact money, Luke or Heather, as to what people get for this, but I have friends that are in recruiting, and like they get a fairly substantial amount of money for every person that's placed into a company. So, think about how you add value if you can get people jobs. Not only did the student get value from that, but the companies as well. Another one that I will encourage you, that is a major opportunity. And if I could highlight something, this is me trying to say, like, really look into this. Through your schools of business or your local communities, you can probably get news articles written about what you're doing, because you are leaders in the community. These places are dying for good stories. There is not enough good stories out there. And what this does, I'll give you an example. There's a local magazine in Pittsburgh that if you take a 1-page ad out in that magazine, it is a $1,500 purchase to do it one time. So if you are able to get a page in the paper and then add a company's name to that page and to that article, that's essentially worth $1,500. If they were to go buy that ad space, it would cost them $1,500. So if you ask them for $1,000 for whatever that fundraiser is for hurricane relief. So somebody could give me a company, but imagine, Delta Sigma Pi students in collaboration with X company support hurricane relief from this. And you get that article written in there, and somehow, your donation for that is $1,000. They're getting a discount on the article, and it's doing a lot of good for you and for the cause as to what it is. This is here we have another comment. Thanks, Anna, for this. Let's see. I would love to potentially use more funds to increase the VPSA budget in order to hand out more chapter scholarships. There are quite a few members in my chapter who are international students and can't apply to U.S. scholarships or on Pell Grant, working for 2 to 3 jobs while in school at DSP. So, Anna, we're getting somewhere now with this. So, first, this is a fantastic cause. You have a need for scholarships and a need today. You could start to share those students' stories as to people probably don't know that they're working 2 or 3 jobs. And I'd love to talk more about it, but while we're here together, these are the things to think about, everybody. Why this? Why now? We've got students that are working 2 or 3 jobs in addition to school. You're starting to, we're in the right place. This is a quote that I always kind of end on with things that are new, is that you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. So I want to get into some specifics with what you have to talk about or your questions, but everybody, fundraising is a great opportunity for you as young people. People want to do good things with their money. When they donate to you and you get them involved, it will be a wonderful thing for them and for your school. I'm going to take this down for a moment. I want to just talk to you for a second, but think about some type of annual event is going to be something I want to encourage you to do tonight. If you create something each and every year that you do, it becomes consistent, you become better at it. The reason that I share with you, if you ask for donations, and I do feel like I want to make sure I make this clear. The reason that you have a 2-year agreement when you get a corporate sponsor is by the time you get them to say yes for year 1, you're already trying to get them to say yes for year 2, because you want to do it the next year. So you can even do this in 3 years if you want to know. You can try to get a 3-year upfront agreement. I have found the sweet spot is 2 years, because when you ask for a 2-year agreement, think about it. You get whatever it is off the ground the first year. Whatever you're doing is going to be much better the second year than it was the first year, just in the nature of the fact that you're getting better with it. And by the time they see something 2 years in a row, and if you do the follow-up things that were in those slides, you do the thank you notes, you make sure you take pictures, post them and tag them on Instagram and Facebook and all of those things, they will never stop the donations for this. And if you go back to them and ask for whatever else it is, they will do even more for you, because so many people, they don't follow through on what it is that they're doing. So those, if we want to take one of these and run with it, I don't know if we have some interaction. So Anna, I have about the students with scholarships. If you want to write this down, this isn't my experience, by the way, everybody. For what it's worth, $500 to $1,000 is a pretty easy ask for any business. My first ones that I would go to is any bank that is around where you are. You can probably get $500 to $1,000 from every single bank that is around you, because banks are community-based. They want to be involved. Now, they are asked a lot, but the one thing I want to share with you about that is be very professional in what you do. Have a cover letter for what it is that you're asking for. Why are you asking for it? Have a cover page. Put the Delta Sig logo, your school logo, and have the business logo on that cover page. Write a nice, well thought out letter as to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then have some type of actual agreement. And this doesn't, you don't have to have an attorney. I mean, we live in this world of sometimes like, legal ways, but, have just a short agreement that you sign, have a place for them to sign it, make it very professional. And the banks are the first place that I would suggest you start. If you're out there trying to get started, I can only share that they're usually, at least in my experience, they're very easy, to go with. I will share with you that the 500 to 1,000, if you go more than that with banks, they usually have to go to the next level or the next person. So your easiest way to get started with them is something like $500 to $1,000. Other things, if you have, utilize your relationships, in school. And if you know anybody that, they are families own businesses, things like that are good places to start for little larger donations. Depending on what you want to accomplish and do, we could talk about what is appropriate to ask for. But the one thing too is get people started. So, if the first one's 500 to 1,000, there always will do more down the road. But one of the keys for that too, and I don't know exactly what this is for everybody, but have some sort of annual event to do that, and include people as speakers. I would share with you, if you have local businesses, you could ask them to be a speaker for a professional development event, take pictures. Again, same thing with I want to make the connection between the news articles, but have them come in and then write a news article about it, right? Delta Sigma Pi welcomes, this CEO or CFO or whatever the position is to campus to talk about these topics, right? Try to get some of that publicity out there. You're better at this than me. I don't do much on social media, but that's the same concept. If you have a lot of followers too on your accounts, you could push it out that way, and that might be worth, think about how much that could be worth for putting it out there. Well, everyone, I want to go to your questions here. If you have things to, please feel free to ask. How can you make your fundraisers stand out? And the best way to reach alumni? I would say that one thing for alumni is have an alumni event, right? Have a day on campus where you bring people in, invite them. This is where there is some things worth investing in. Do an actual invitation. It doesn't have to be too fancy, but you could probably, I know you have somebody that has the skill to make up an invitation, put them in the mail, send it to them, call them as well. The phone is one thing that it goes a long way to get a personal phone call or a text to be able to get people to campus. And then that's something too. You could even, I think being upfront about things is appropriate. So maybe you even say that you're doing an alumni event to raise awareness about XYZ project. And that's the reason you want to have people to campus. And so they have some idea that maybe there's an ask that's going to be involved in the event. You don't want to ask people somewhere and then come out of nowhere for something. So think about how you might include that on the invitation. The other thing for fundraising, everybody, sure, there's the big question, I haven't got enough of them there, but is why? Like, why do you want to do it? Why is it going to benefit the group? Gabe, you say that you're a newer chapter. Fundraising is, ideas for tips with limited capital. I think that's a great fundraise on that. Why this? Why now? We're a new chapter. We're reaching out to places because we're getting started. Again, I don't know exactly what to help you with what you're asking for, but think about what are your needs, and I think you could use that as part of your story as to why you're reaching out, why you want to fundraise. And Gabe, I just have I do believe in this at this point in my life, but, you know, ask for donations, right? You know, $500 to $1,000 is quite a bit of $10 sandwiches, right? There's a lot of sandwiches in $1,000. Do the sandwiches and the things because you want to build camaraderie with your team, because it's a collective effort. There are reasons to do it, right? Guillermo, I think I misread your topic. You said you don't have a very active alumni. I think that, you know, if what I would do if I was
that is correct. Do not have a
do
very
not
active.
have a very, one thing I would do is I would have everybody write down a list of people that they would feel like that they could contact for something. And again, it would help me more if I knew what the ask was, like what they were trying to get. But I'll just use like lead registrations as an example. So if you were trying to get more students to events, I would say, you know, get a list of as many, and try to qualify the people a little bit as to, you know, do they have a business? You know, to me, that's an easy one. Does anybody work for these businesses? So like if they have students that are currently employed, you know, could they approach the employer in addition to
I
them
like the
working
idea.
there?
I like the idea of the ask, because a lot of those people would have been to lead and they've had really good memories about it. So if I can get the chapter to bring
Yes,
that up. So no, we're
right.
not just asking for money, we're asking for a reason.
Yes.
I think that would be smart. And I've got a couple of brothers in the Zoom room, so they're listening too, hopefully. So we're getting some good ideas from you.
Awesome. Again, that's huge, because then, you know, depending on if it's what their level of, you know, ability is, but you can do a lead scholarship for $150, or say, what I might do is do like 500 and then encapsulate what they get for $500 is a student will go, their room will be paid for,
Right.
their meals are paid for. And then the key to that, everybody, if you're listening, is to have that student then take the pictures at the event, put together a nice, you know, appreciation letter, you know, to that donor. And that person will do that until they can't for some reason, because that would make it, you know, they would see the direct impact that that's making. You know, and if it's a chapter or if an idea to take that to, if you wanted to, I don't know how big different chapters are or how many students you would want to go, but maybe you have a local business sponsor $5,000 a year, and they can sponsor the whole chapter, you know, or something like that. But those are good things to think about. If you have the why, then it becomes, that, yeah, you're asking for that. And by the way, everybody, people, this is a belief I have. People spend money on all kind of crazy stuff. Okay, I don't know if you see this, but like to me, people are like really irresponsible with their money, like as a whole. Like I'm not saying that like everybody is, but like I see people, and I have my own friends that I'm like, what did you spend? Right. And I say that in the sense that, like, you know, be confident, and that when you ask, your ask is not going to like make people broke. You are not going to like ask for money that they're not going to be able to go eat tomorrow, but they are going to be able to do really cool things by giving to you. And if you know, do the right things, they will love it. So I'll give you one story. That the first time I ever asked for $5,000, I had a friend of mine. She owns a business in Pittsburgh. And one of the things too, and I'll share this with people, is lunch is a good place to make asks. Again, people are comforted by food. So you usually have good conversation, and food is very comforting for people. So a good place to ask is over lunch. And we're having lunch, and then I had a proposal, and I made my first ask for $5,000. She reads through the proposal, and I don't know exactly what she said, but she's like, Brad, I love this. She's like, and it was to benefit like high school students in Pittsburgh. She's like, I love this. She's like, I want to be a part of this. She goes, I want to ask you something though. She goes, do you think you can do this for $5,000? And I was like, I didn't know what to say. And I said, well, and then she ended up saying, she goes, I think that you need to ask for what you're worth. And she then wrote me a check for $10,000 a bunch. And I still get goosebumps as I say it. I'm not trying to say it because of the money, but she really taught me is to value what you do, but also ask for what you need. And people will be generous with you. And you may get, I mean, believe me, I've had people that have said no, but if you get the right situations, you'd be amazed at how happy people are to get involved in certain things. And no, too, you'll be surprised. Some people you'll think have a lot of opportunity and or a lot of funds and they won't come through. And then some people you'll ask for $500 and they'll say, well, what else can we do? You have things, but Heather, if companies donate to a chapter leadership fund, yeah, it's tax deductible. So there's another one for everybody, that it is tax deductible for what it is that they give. So they can do that as well. Think about how you can market their business. Like I said, I can't stress enough. I mean, employment is huge. You are, I'm a little biased when I say this, but I've really had great interactions with members and brothers. So, if companies had the chance to hire Delta SIGs, they're winning by being able to hire you, right? Because you're going to add a lot of value to the company. How you can promote them, there's all these good things. I don't know if this is, but I'm just throwing this out there. Heather, you might be able to, or Luke could help me, but Delta SIG has the magazine too, right? That I don't know how many times somebody says, can we put this article or what it is in the magazine, but think about the reach that some of these things have. So, if I give you anything tonight, it's to think creatively about what you can ask for, how you can ask for it. I have not done very many talks on fundraising, everyone, as well. So please, the other thing I would ask of you is some feedback as to, was this helpful? Did you get some things from this? I'm happy to share what I can. Does anybody else have? Yeah, Heather's saying there's the magazine that you can send into. So again, think about that. It's a huge reach. So if you get something that you're doing, if you wanted to put an article in there, they'd love it. And by the way, the local papers love you because they need articles. They need things to write about. So if you send in a full written article about what you've done, you're their hero. Well, let's take some questions. I was hoping, Anna, you've got a great one with the scholarships. I would maybe make up, depending on how many there are, come up with a goal of, I don't know how much you'd want to raise for that, but come up with a number there. That would be good. Anybody else? Anybody?
Brad, if
Yeah.
I can ask you one thing, kind
Yeah,
of going
please.
back to how you said banks are a great starting point.
Yes.
So I know talking to a couple of other chapters, I guess sort of my question here is kind of what exactly is it we're offering in return? Because I know some chapters, they do like a booklet where they have the resume of everyone in their chapter and they'll hand that out to sponsors, right? But I guess it's kind of, is it typically like if we go to this bank and say like, hey, if you give us a donation of $500, then we'll advertise your business to our chapter? Is that what you're saying?
That's a great question, Anna. What I would throw out as an easy idea for everybody, and this would be a starting point, I would invite all of them to a chapter to present the scholarship or to present the donation to those students. get them on campus, get them to one of your meetings, let them get introduced to everybody. I only can throw out like you can be creative with this, but a good one is when people come to a meeting, have a seat printed for them, like a VIP seat, so that when they come to the meeting, say, "Hey, welcome, here's your seat." I mean, they put their logo on the back, put their name on the back of the seat. People love that kind of stuff. So I would just say that that's a starting point. It's just to do a nice job of recognizing them for what they give, and them meeting everybody, because that would be a good starting point. You can certainly do the other advertising things, like we'll make a post about this. And if I'll even put my email in here too, I would follow up with me and say, like, we can think a little bit about what those other things could be, but you could certainly make a list in the agreement of what you send them. Like, we would like to invite you to campus. We'd like to, here, I actually have an example of this that I can share. And everyone, I know we're already at 45 minutes. So if anybody does need to go, I do understand. Here, let me see if I can share my screen for this real quick. I use a program called Canva. Sure, you might have heard of it. But this is an example of, we do the Student Leadership Academy in Pittsburgh. And I literally gave this out last week. So we had a guest speaker come in, and to thank them, print this out on cardstock and make it really nice for them, right? Like, that they can keep it, and something that's important. So, little touches like that mean a lot. So, like, if we'd like to invite you to campus, to an event, we'd like to recognize you in front of the chapter. We'd make a couple, if it's posts about this, like that would be huge. People would love that. And it'd be so much more than what's normally done. I mean, I can only stress to you enough that those types of things go a long way. Is that helpful? Is that?
Yes, no, you've been very helpful today. Thank you so much, Brad.
Is that good? Okay, awesome. Anything else? I've thought about too, you could do like a social media challenge with your chapter, incorporate their business in some way, make it like a contest. And then, whoever wins gets I don't know, just ways to be creative about it. But I do think that for Guillermo, the LEAD scholarships are a very good ask, getting students to an event, getting students to the next level, thinking about what those asks are very good.
I think just as importantly is to come back with a great thank you, and the sending of pictures, and because of you, I was able to attend.
Huge. And when they get that, like I said, they're always going to have, like, they will keep those things for so long. The other one that I'll share with you, and I'm going back, Heather, on some things that when I did for about 2 years, I was, like I said, faculty advisor for this Rotaract in Slippery Rock. One of the things that was huge for us, and I don't know if this is, but people couldn't pay to go to events. So I'll give you an example. We did like a escape room, and I found out that, like, I had like 30 students, and I had like 8 that like weren't going to go because of the $25 to go to the escape room. So I got with our team, and we found that was a need, right? So we did trivia night. Like, we found out that people wouldn't go to trivia night because it was a $20 meal, and they wouldn't want to do that. So we ended up seeking out an individual, and we ended up raising $5,000 from that individual to cover all of these interactive, we called it team building events. And so because of this person's support for a year, every year, we did not have to ask if they wanted to go to an escape room, we had the money for it. If they wanted to go to trivia night, we had the money for it. And the big thing about that is it does help too. Sometimes, people join not only for the leadership aspect, but from the camaraderie standpoint of friendships and what you do together. So it's important to get that engagement. So think about, like, if you might have someone sponsor, for $1,000, they might sponsor a certain activity, right? And it helps with accountability, teamwork, problem solving, think about those things. And like, what would you want to do? Like, my question to my group was like, oh, what do you want to do? Right. And they were like, we want to do this escape room. We want to do trivia night. Like, we want to do these things. But, we did Feed the Homeless one night in Pittsburgh. Similar thing, which was amazing, but true, is that we reimbursed our student leaders the gas mileage to and from Pittsburgh, which was about an hour drive. And we had, if this was the case we made to the one donor, we said, if we don't have the funds, we literally won't have kids that won't go because they won't want to drive back and forth to Pittsburgh. So, think about, again, I don't, your chapters, but what are those things that if you had this, it would help your teams? And what do we think, Kev? Do we think there's some things in there that we can help our teams? Do you think? See if we got anybody. What do we think? Anna, Gabe, Ella, Megan, we got some ideas out there. Here's my offer to anybody is, I guess, Heather, would this be fair if I practice what you preach is important, right? That's like a desirable quality. So I will share this, is that not this semester, but in the fall, I would love to do a leadership conference with chapters. And I'll throw out, this is my high level idea, and I can't do it in the spring, but I could do it in the fall. We have a one-day conference, and it's maybe 2 or 3 hours. And we have a nice introduction. We have your members do they teach some subjects as well. So we engage all of your members by teaching certain subjects. We do a couple of workshops. We have a closing ceremony, and we put all that together, and we do it every year. And the goal would be that over time, we could get enough donations and fundraising that maybe the first couple of years, the school subsidizes some of it, but that it could actually be a Delta Sigma Pi led event. And my guess, my big vision for it would be that it would be a great recruiting tool for you and your chapters. It would be a great learning experience to be able to put on an event like this, to be able to engage the community. Imagine news articles that are written about the events and how you could truly make an impact on the school. So that's something that I've had this idea as to that it's possible. I will share with everybody, I am now, believe it or not, I'm married 6 years, Heather, which my wife reminds me every so often. She's always like, oh, it feels like a lifetime, but look, life gets in the way of things. But I will make my email's down here. I'll put my cell phone down as well. If you have any questions on things that come up, I'm sure that they will. Reach out to me regarding anything with fundraising, and if you'd like to explore, possibly doing some event like that, I'd be happy to at least explore it with you. I don't know if it's possible or not. It seems like it could be a lot of do a lot of good with it. Luke will tell me. Luke will say, "Is that a good idea, Luke, or is that, where am I at with that? Is that am I on it?" But I think it would be a great educational program. But mainly, I'm here to help you with what you need. So, anything else? Anybody? There's, what, Dylan? What's the score of the game? Is it over yet? Is it?
I hear a lot of yelling in the other room. So
Is this like somebody's like
close
nobody's
to
watching?
halftime,
Close to halftime.
probably. I
Oh
would
man,
assume.
I just looked at the score on my phone. Depending on who you're rooting for, it's
Oh my God. That's rough. Rough.
Anna. Thank you for your comments and truly with the banks too. If anybody would want one, if you email me, my email's down there. I'd be happy to send you an example of like what I would send for like the banks, things like that, like a general template. And it could be very standardized too. So like with the banks, once you do one, you can do a number of them. Right, Gabe, I would like to expand my connections to fundraising chairs. Awesome. Thanks, Gabe. Gabe's got his phone number in there if you'd like to connect about fundraising. Gabe, do you have an email as well that you could put down? That might be a place for people to start. Or I don't know, maybe it's that a thing. I don't know. I'm like uncomfortable like messaging somebody right away. Like if I don't, we need to like once we meet, then I can call you kind of thing.
Brad, let me just address something really quick. I don't
Yeah,
know
please.
if other schools have this issue, but our school is a really small school, but it's highly bureaucratic. And we're not supposed to ask anyone for money for any reason without permission from the communications office. And the communications office bats 100% with a no every time anybody asks.
Wow.
We're not supposed to have food come into campus unless we purchase it from the CAF. That's a deal that Aramark carved out into their contract. So the CAF is run by Aramark, Chick-fil-A is run by Aramark, Subway is Aramark. So that makes it a little tough for us. We still sneak stuff in. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I would have to be careful with encouraging my students to do something that we may get shunned upon for.
Yes. Well, I would say it's everybody too is, I certainly don't want to advocate anybody does anything that they shouldn't do. I would also make the case to whoever those people are that once you build out and, Guillermo, you mentioned like the scholarships for the league, conference. If you came up with what the asks are and what like a nice plan as to like what you're looking for, why you want it, the benefits of it, I would really make the case to those individuals as to why you're doing this, the importance of it. And if somebody would still come back and say, you know what I'm getting at, I would, and I know you're saying it's 100% of the time they just say
you would be amazed. You would be amazed. And it's just an office of like 3 people that have complete control over everything. But it is worth a try. I also think for our chapter, it might be a little easier to actually go to individuals who have done well professionally and are brothers or alumni of that particular chapter, of our chapter.
Yeah, that's a great ask, and it's engaging them and getting them involved. And I don't mean to go beyond this call, everybody, but some things to think about are step 1, where to get them involved, simply to engage them back with the chapter. Then what level of interest do they have? Making sure they had a good experience, and then what do you want or what do you need? And depending on who it is, too, Guillermo, I'll just share is that in my experience, there's different people have different levels of what they want to do. But if you have some people that are very successful, really think about, they want to do big things. I have found that some people, they just they want things they want to see change done, right? And then, but whatever level it is, it's a great opportunity. Everybody, I'll kind of close on this if anybody has anything they'd like to ask, but don't be afraid to ask for what you want. And this goes beyond fundraising. Ask for what you want at your workplace, right? I say this, my wife and I, 6 years, we have great communication. I just say, ask for what you want in different areas. And the better communication that you have will help you not only with fundraising, but it'll help you in your professional career. It'll help you in many different ways. So fundraising is really about just having good communication as to what do you need, why do you need it, and if there are people that can provide it for you, give them a chance to say yes. And if you're on tonight's call, I do want to just say that I know you could be anywhere right now and you chose to be here, so I'm proud of you for investing in yourself in that way. And I look forward to meeting you in person. If anybody's going to Indianapolis, I will see you at Indianapolis for the upcoming lead event. But I'm proud of you. And then again, my email's in there, my phone number, connect with me on LinkedIn. Email's the best, though. I'll be honest, I'm not on LinkedIn too much, but thank you. Does anybody have any questions, anything?
Thank you very much, Brad.
Anything else? Some good stuff. Anna, go for those scholarships. That would be a good one. Awesome. Noel, thank you. Anna, awesome. Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much, Brad. And thank you
Thank you,
everybody
Brad.
for attending tonight.
Yep, absolutely.